Welcome to the Manufacturing Matters podcast with the Council of Industry. Join us as we bring you inspiring stories, interviews, and insights from across the Hudson Valley that will revolutionize the way you think about manufacturing. This podcast is proudly sponsored by PKF O'Connor Davies, a leading accounting and advisory firm dedicated to helping businesses thrive in the manufacturing sector. With their industry knowledge and strategic guidance, PKF O'Connor Davies ensures that manufacturers have the financial insights and support they need to achieve success.
Jim Ferraro, Vice President of Elna Magnetics. Welcome to the Council of Industry podcast.
Thank you so much. Happy to be with you this morning.
So, Elna Magnetics, tell us a little bit about the company, where it is, what you guys do, employees, that kind of stuff.
So Elna, back up a bit, Elna was founded in 1955 in Woodstock, essentially as a prototype manufacturer when Ferroxcube manufactured all their ferrite right here in Saugerties, about 2 miles away. There was a Ferroxcube employee that was working there, and Ferroxcube found the need to have some prototype custom machining done. And this guy kind of went into business for himself as an offshoot of Ferroxcube. And then when Ferroxcube went into the distribution model, Elna was Ferroxcube's first ever distributor. That relationship has been in place essentially since the mid-50s and continues to today, even though Ferroxcube manufactures all of their most of their ferrite in Poland, and they obviously have a manufacturing plant in China. We are still their largest distributor and second largest customer in the world. So that relationship is deeply rooted.
Just a quick interruption to say, like, exactly what is ferrite? And it's funny, I still think of those blue buildings along the thruway in Saugerties as Ferroxcube, even though it hasn't been that for a long time.
And everybody still does in the community. And there's some activity there. I'm not sure what it is, but I drive by often and there's cars in and out. So I'm hoping
that's good.
Maybe
something's going on there.
Happen.
Something's going on there. Yeah. What is ferrite? What's it used for?
So ferrite is essentially a ceramic. It's used in a variety of basically every electronic component you can think of. It's in your cell phone, your car. It's used in semiconductor technology. Essentially, so somebody found out years ago that if you take copper wire and you apply a current to that copper wire, and then you stick a iron rod through the donut of the copper wire, that you can change the output of the electrical properties. And that essentially is what ferrite is doing in all of these applications. So we're in semiconductor technology, alternative energy, when that was kind of booming 15 years ago or so here in the States. All of the solar technology uses AC power. So the inverter from DC to AC, there's ferrite in there to do some conversion. It's essentially either used for power, noise suppression, and heat suppression in electronical components.
Okay, and is it is it like ferrous ceramic? So it's like an iron component to it?
Correct.
You play with the properties or to get the desired outcome?
Yeah, so it's fired and sintered just like you would be making something in pottery class, right? For kind of an easy comparison. And then it's either manganese zinc based or nickel zinc based, and then there's powder formulations, and it's essentially a die that it's pressed under very high tonnage to produce the shape that you're desiring.
Okay, and so it's both a chemical process and a mechanical process to get what's your end product.
Correct. So Elna's role in our industry is as a distributor, catalog items. We have about 11 different manufacturers on our line card that we supply material for, inventory it, and then we'll sell as distribution. And then our value add comes into play where a customer engineer, their application, a standard product doesn't work, doesn't fit, or the electrical properties, doesn't work, then Elna's value add manufacturing can make something as simple as grinding something down to something that's thinner than a catalog item, or we will start with a block of material and make essentially any custom shape you can imagine.
Gotcha. Okay, that was my interruption of where you were in the story of Elna. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So you were born in Woodstock and...
Born in Woodstock. We were in Woodstock until 2009. And then in 2009, we actually bought one of our smaller competitors. We were expanding. and we were running out of space. We found 9.5 acres of property in Saugerties. We put up a 32,000 square foot building, broke ground in March, moved in October, no, October, then December with manufacturing, and have been in the same spot ever since. And then in 2016, we opened up a small distribution center. We leased some space in Southern California, just outside of San Diego. And in August of 2022, we actually broke ground on a 15,000 square foot addition that's purely manufacturing. Took about 18 months to get that up and running, and we've been in that addition ever since. So here in Saugerties, we're on about 47,000 square feet or so.
Great. How many people?
It varies, between 60 and 65, depending on circumstances and market conditions. Right now, we're at about 62.
Okay. And who are the customers? I mean, obviously, it could be anybody that's in the electronics industry. And then does that vary by who you're distributing to and who you're manufacturing for? Or how does that work?
So typically, if you look at our top 50 customers, for example, you'll see some big OEMs that you might recognize if you're kind of in the industry, or even if you're not in the industry, some large OEMs in the NAFTA market. And truthfully, a lot of our customers are small mom and pop, 5, 10, 15, 20 person employers. They're essentially winding houses, making transformers, all throughout NAFTA. Typically, it's NAFTA. We have a lot of customers in Canada, but most of our customers are in the United States. And that's really what it comprises of. The military guys that we do business with, we're dealing directly with the Northrops and Raytheons and things like that. But
Okay.
on the semiconductor side, we have a couple of OEMs, but most of them are just essentially small winding houses making transformers.
Okay, interesting. And what are the types of employees that are working there? What are the job titles? I know you have machinists. You mentioned machining that part. What are some of the other titles there?
So we have everything from machinists, really skilled machinists that have been doing this for 30 years. We have CNC operators, and then we have all the warehouse personnel, receiving, pulling, packing, shipping clerks, and then obviously all of the back office, as I call it. We have a controller, a couple of accounting clerks, APAR. We have 5 internal customer service representatives, 2 individuals in HR managing employee benefits and all the things that go with human resources. And then there's 4 owners of Elna, 3 of which are in this building every day doing a variety of things. We're in multiple hats. We have an applications engineer, and we have purchasing and logistics department.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about ownership because that's always an interesting thing in the succession world.
Yep. So the 4 owners are, my dad, Joe Ferraro, is the primary stockholder. Then there's myself as the vice president. And then a gentleman by the name of John Rosner, who is actually our applications engineer. He is the next stockholder. And then Jana Blazicek, who resides in Europe. She's a European. She's Slovakian. She moved here when she was 18, and certain circumstances have brought her back to Europe. But she does all of our inventory planning, logistics, handles all of our ocean shipments. Due to the fact that nobody really makes product in this country, we do a tremendous amount of importing. And with Ferraro making everything in Poland, we're responsible for the shipment from the second it leaves their factory in Poland. So she handles all the logistics associated with getting it to the port, getting it on a ship, getting a booking, getting it into Newark, getting it up here on a truck. So she's handling all of that stuff. And her presence in Europe is helpful because she's in the same time zone as the factory. She's an hour away from the factory. She can visit them. So that's kind of the structure of the ownership. And then the long-term plan is that when my dad does retire, those 3 that I mentioned, us, me, myself, and John and Jana, will take over the future of Elna.
Nice. Very good. Now, obviously you grew up with the business, but did you grow up with the business? Were you part of it from, the story goes when you were a toddler, or how did you come to be?
So my dad started working at Elna in 2000 as sales and marketing manager, and then took over ownership in 2005. So really since 2005, I've been involved. I was a junior in high school in 2005. So I spent a lot of summers working in the warehouse and packing boxes and shipping stuff. And then I went away to college. I have a bachelor's from St. Thomas Aquinas down in Rockland County. Spent 4 years down there, I had other jobs, not related to the business world. I waited tables at steakhouses and stuff like that. And then when I came back, I wanted to give Elna a try. I graduated in 2010 with my bachelor's, and I immediately went on to my master's. I have an MBA from Marist. I did that part-time online while working at Elna full-time.
Great.
And I wanted to get back and, get into Elna and see if I liked it. After a couple of years, it was kind of like, if you like it, great, and we're going to move down this path. If you don't like it, no hard feelings, but I got to figure out what the exit strategy is going to be when my dad's ready to retire. And I expressed an interest in wanting to take it over. So we've been on that path ever since.
Great. That's good. I mean, it sounds like it's well thought out, and that's important for it in that transition. A side note, we had recently visited the Dyson Center at Marist, the new Dyson Center. I don't know if you've seen the building since it's been rehabbed and opened. It's spectacular. What a great spot for, if you were getting your master's now, it would be a different experience for sure. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I have not seen it. Truthfully, I have not been on that campus in a very long time, but I had a great experience with Marist. I really enjoyed the classes. I think everybody kind of says the same thing. I use my MBA on a daily basis a lot more than I use my bachelor's.
Man.
I found that was it's a lot more beneficial to me being in the position that I'm in.
Yeah. Do you think part of that is, maturity when you're learning the stuff? I mean, you come at it from a different, a different perspective when when you're working, when you're learning, when when it's more relevant, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think it was helpful that I did my master's while I was working, because I found myself in certain scenarios and, problem solving techniques and things like that. I related a lot of the answers to what I was doing at Elna. There was a problem at Elna, or there was a situation that I dealt with, that we part of the MBA program at Marist, at least back then, you were required to take basically a managing change class, and how to cope with that and manage employees through a relatively severe change in the organization. And I found myself, the answers to my questions were things that we were doing here on a daily basis. So it became easy to answer the questions.
That's true. You submit your day job for a grade. I mean,
Exactly.
I had to do this project while I was married. I'm just write that what I just did this afternoon, and then we'll submit it. That's great. Good. I'm glad to hear that. So let's talk a little bit more about workforce and education. You're very involved in the community around those things. We both serve on the PTech, the Hudson Valley Pathways Academy steering committee, and you're the chair. Congratulations. Are you still? Did that swap over?
No, I still am.
Good. Yeah, great. Good for us. But talk about that and how you came to be involved in that and why it's important.
So yeah, we've been involved with BOCES probably for the better part of 6 or 7 years now. I'm a big proponent of what it is that they're doing. Shout out to Dr. Schenker. I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Amazing job. And
he might be the podcast right before you, by the way.
Okay, yeah, he's excellent. He's excellent. I got a chance to listen to him talk at the last chamber breakfast at Wiltwick. Just has a lot of really progressive ideas on how to get our youth into jobs and excited about what it is that they're doing, and really making them polished individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We first met Jonah when the first PTech was kind of in its infancy, and it was actually at Kingston High School. And I think Jonah was the first principal of that, right? Yep. So that was my first foray into meeting Jonah. And to me, those kids, and I've said it to their faces, when I was 15, 16 years old, I didn't have the self-confidence to do what they have the opportunity to do. And I think that it's super beneficial for them and for us, right? It's got to be a two-way street. But the stuff that they're doing, especially as I see it, I think traditional education, and I use quotes for that because I'm not really sure what that really means. I hate to generalize, but it's not as popular maybe as when I was graduating high school. People
Right.
people have found that there's other opportunities without doing the 4 years of high school and 4 years of college and maybe a master's or even beyond a PhD, and they can be just as successful coming out of a vocational school. I actually had this conversation with our new HR administrator yesterday. She's a few years younger than me. I think she just turned 30. But even when she graduated high school, there was kind of like this stigma about, oh, you're going to BOCES? And it
Right.
was now I think that stigma is going away for the better. I think it's beneficial that that stigma does go away because those kids have a lot to offer,
Yeah.
um, both to themselves and the community and a potential employer. So I'm very, very a big advocate of what they're doing. I'm excited about their move over to iPark. We're very involved, as you mentioned, as is the council and other employers in the area. Um, Giving these kids an opportunity to get into face to face with business owners in the community and build up their confidence and make presentations and try to help them solve problems. I think it's an invaluable opportunity that they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it perfectly right there because it's kind of the difference between the Ulster BOCES, the Hudson Valley Pathways Academy in particular, but them taking that P-TECH model and kind of pushing it through the entire CTE program that they have of industry partnerships and connections. And for so many places and for so many years, industry engagement's been like, a twice a year meeting, just, a pro forma thing. But this is real engagement that they've created. And, with your leadership and others, it's a game changer. It really is. It's showing kids opportunities in all kinds of industries. And we were talking about manufacturing here, but they certainly are doing it with other industries as well, whether that's construction or cosmetology or auto mechanics, whatever it is. They're doing it everywhere, and they're building that relationship and bringing the industry folks right into the school and creating that feedback loop, which is so important. And I think Dr. Schenker is probably the first one to say, and he might have even said it on the podcast, that the industry partners are what's making this work. And kudos to you for taking that leadership role with that group.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's, if we're not capturing them early enough to at least give them an opportunity to know what's kind of in their backyard, right?
Right, right.
And the thing that we've always said, and I've heard you say it, and I've heard Rich Croce from Viking say it, yeah, we're manufacturers. We make things, and maybe you don't want to work with your hands and run a machine and do those things. But, I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast about all the other departments that we have, sales, accounting, human resources. So, our HR administrator and sales manager all have bachelor's degrees and went to SUNY New Paltz and SUNY Ulster. They're
Right,
working in manufacturing, but
right.
they have a different position. They're a supportive role. So you can still work in manufacturing and not have to actually run a machine. So I think we're trying to eliminate that stigma that, manufacturing is dirty and nasty and low paying. I don't think that even if you're running a machine, it's dirty, nasty, and low
No,
paying. And
yeah,
and and
certainly not in your facility.
and B, you can still work for a manufacturer and utilize potentially a 4 year college degree in a supportive role. Like our controller is going for his master's right now. But he's working in manufacturing. So I
Yeah.
think that's a message we're all trying to get out.
Yeah, it's really important. And are there, we Ulster BOCES is where your main emphasis is, but I mean, I know as I was at a meeting with you at Saugerties High School as well, and I know you guys are, trying to engage that program as well and reach out to those kids.
Yeah, so we've been involved with them. We most recently last winter, actually, there's actually a video that's on our website that was pulled together. We've interviewed a bunch of employees that were here. That entire video and idea from idea to end result was done by the class at Saugerties High School.
Hmm.
I went with them. I met with them a bunch of times. I talked to them about what we're looking to accomplish, kind of like a marketing video for Elna, and give them a class project. Dan Ursig, the superintendent, was very supportive of the project. He was involved from day one, and they pulled together that entire video, edited it, gave us the end result. And if anybody wants to check it out, not so much, yeah, you might learn more about Elna, but those kids did a fantastic job of that video.
Yeah, we'll be sure to include the link in the show notes here so people can take a
That'd
look.
be great.
Yeah, that's yeah, and I mean, I know you did a great job introducing us to Saugerties as well, and you know they're doing good work, and I think the more, you know, to our earlier point in the conversation, the more that we can be engaged as an industry with any school, like any willing partner that wants to listen, I think we can offer you know, some good resources to them. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges you guys are facing. I mean, you know, manufacturing is you know, front and center in national and global politics and policy. Where does your, I'm not going to say little, but your significant small company fit into the, you know, what's happening with tariffs and global trade and the big one big beautiful bill, all that stuff? Where are you guys landing?
So we're certainly seeing some hesitancy in the market. It's definitely not great economic conditions at the moment.
Okay.
We started out the year relatively strong. We had strong backlogs and a really positive sales forecast going into 2025. And when the tariffs hit, to be honest, everybody kind of paused what it is they were doing, because I think we all were doing the same thing, trying to figure out what end was up. We all spent a lot of time in conference rooms and figuring out where we were at and what our new pricing was and what's affected and how to relay that message back to customers. You know, and like I said, especially with the Ferrite thing, we're responsible for the importing, so we have to pay the tariff to our import broker. A lot of our other major suppliers, although they manufacture overseas, they have warehouses in the States. So we've just got a new price on our product that we would distribute, and there's no, you know, the tariff is baked into the price. So, but we're not dealing with the importing side of it. I think from our point, you know, so I'll be honest, we lost a significant piece of business to a domestic option that
Really?
one of our large OEMs found a domestic option, and they've moved that piece of business.
Mm.
So from our point of view, not great news. From overall domestic economy, I guess that accomplishes our president's goal, right? However you want to look at it.
I guess.
Right. So, you know, I don't, you know, bad for us, not, you know, not great, good for the other company who's making product here in America. I don't see, especially in our industry, and you read articles about this, you know, that there's not, you can't pivot quite that quickly and start making product in this country by the end of the week.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So we're muddling through it. Tariffs specifically, I think, you know, kind of like the first round of tariffs back in 2017, when President Trump put the 25% on China, everybody was screaming, yelling, the sky is falling. And then they said, well, it kind of is what it is. And they dealt with it. And I think we're starting to get to that point now where they're going, I don't like it, but that's where the product is made.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I hear frustration with the moving targets,
Yes.
where, you know, there's you know, India, Brazil, where, you know, it's one number one day, it's another number the next day. It does seem like there's some stability now with Europe, which is largely where you're doing work, correct? So does that feel like, does it feel that way? I mean, does it feel more stable? At least now, you know, you can start making decisions.
Yes, it was nice back in May when we signed the deal with the UK at 10%. We were all kind of waiting with bated breath because the 30% out of the UK would have been really detrimental. We're happy that it's at 15. 10 would have been better. Um, the India
Zero is
thing,
probably a
yes,
good number too, just saying, or two, whatever it was.
yeah. The India thing is still a moving target for us. We import a lot of stuff from India,
You do,
and you
okay.
know, yeah. So you know, we knew it went to 25, and then he made the announcement it could go to 50. You know, pending this thing with Russia. So we're, you know, you constantly feel like you're in a wait and see mode. and you want to take action, but you can't.
Right, right.
So yeah, there's a lot of hesitancy in the market for sure.
That's frustrating. Um, do you do you see from maybe on the tariff side, how are you dealing with, I mean, are you passing that along? I mean, you pay the tariff. I mean, are you able to pass that to your customers? I mean, you mentioned you lost somebody because you obviously couldn't, or they found a better deal. Um, how are you trying to do that? Are you trying to absorb any of it? Is it case by case? I guess there's so many questions.
Yeah, so we're trying to be as fair as we possibly can. Obviously, our larger customers, we're trying to work with them, and they get more personalized attention. Of course, the more, they're a large customer of ours. We can't afford to absorb it, to be honest, especially on the distribution side. Our
Yeah,
margins are just not that big.
gotcha.
When the EU went from 10 to 15, we tried to make our lives easier. To be honest, we're not losing any money, but we said, you know what, from now to the end of the year, we're not raising any prices.
Okay.
And we'll see what happens after the first of the year. So we're going to continue to import things at a 5% increase, and we're going to eat that. When it's 55% out of China, sometimes that tariff is double what my margin might be.
Mm.
So we don't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're passing all of it on.
And the impact has been so far, people just are nodding and saying okay, or paying their bills, or looking for
Well,
somebody else and then finding there is nobody else. How does that work?
so in our industry, and other industries as well, if that particular manufacturer's part is on the bill of materials, it's hard to get something else qualified.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they're dealing with it, but they're kicking and screaming before they deal with it. What we did truthfully too, because we maintain a lot of inventory as a distributor, we gave people kind of a grace period and said,
Oh, interesting.
if you take it by the end of June or whatever our date was, I forget, I've had so many tariff meetings at this point, but if you take it by the end of June, we'll leave your price alone. If you take it after the end of June, your price goes to this. So we did have a lot of customers take advantage of the lower non-tariffed price. So we also think that's part of the reason for the slowness, because they bought more than they needed
Right.
just to get the inventory in place, and now they're
Right.
burning through that stock. And everybody in our industry kind of did the same thing.
Interesting. Yeah, it is what we've heard about. Kind of shifting a little bit, same area, but from the tax policy. I mean, is there anything in the Reconciliation Act that going to be good, bad, or ugly for you guys? What's anything in there you're aware of?
Well, we're certainly happy about the QBI
Okay.
extension. That 20% has been very helpful, that we can not take as much money and pay taxes and reinvest it back in the business.
Right.
Our 15,000 square foot addition, obviously very, very needed, but we used basically all operating cash to pay for that,
Wow. Okay.
because we've had that and it was a savings on the taxes. I think from our employees' point of view, the no tax on overtime, I say that because I forget all the language on that. There is some tax, there's some threshold. The few employees that I talk to are very happy about that. They have more money in their pocket to pay their grocery bill, their mortgage, or just go have some fun.
Right.
So I think that's all stuff that's going to hopefully help the economy kind of churn things up in the future.
Gotcha. So that's good. That's interesting to hear. What are some of the challenges? I mean, beyond the tariff thing, is workforce still a challenge? Is anything like regulatory a challenge?
Workforce is still a challenge. We talked about BOCES. I chair the Workforce Development Board for the county. We meet 6 times a year and talk about various things related to workforce. And, it comes down to the things that, quite honestly, we've been talking about for the last half a decade or more. It's housing. I'm sure you saw the most recent pattern report on housing.
Yep.
It's not exactly a ray of light.
No, it's
So, and I think
discouraging.
we're all fighting the same thing. People, they can't afford their rents, so they're not living in the area. Yeah, so workforce is certainly a big challenge, and has been for, it's not a new thing.
Right. Yeah. I know you guys also are part of our apprentice program. So you are working to upskill people. You invest in them, you give them the resources, and once they're proven themselves to be good employees.
Yeah, we've pushed quite a few people through that apprenticeship program. We have I want to say one in it right now that's still got to complete some classes, maybe two. I know you guys have been here quite a bit to give certificates and acknowledge people. So yeah, we're happy to do that as long as there's interest on the employee side. And it's great all the way around. It's always easier from our point of view to upskill, train, and promote from within than try to hire off the street.
Mm.
So that's part of our motivation for wanting to get people in the apprentice program, just because they can learn a new skill and it helps us and it helps them.
Right. Do you have trouble recruiting? It's, you're probably not looking to add dozens of people at any one time, but is it a challenge bringing in the ones and twos or fives that you need to?
It is. It certainly is. We have an easier time finding office personnel, at what I say. We had to hire a new HR administrator. We hired her back in May. We got quite a few qualified candidates and we had some good conversations. The manufacturing and warehouse personnel is always been the toughest and remains that way. But we try to throw as much stuff up against the wall as we possibly can. We use the ISIMs through the council. We do Indeed. We work with Aerotech and Manpower for temp agencies. And we're always temp to hire, not temp forever.
Right.
But yeah, we try to grab from as many places as possible to get talent. Finding qualified workers continues to be a problem.
So Jim, in the time that we have left, maybe try and end on some happy notes, and let's talk about what some of the opportunities are for Elna and where you see the company heading in the next several years.
Sure. So although I mentioned some negative things about tariffs and business being down, we still think we're going to have a very good 2025. There's some things that are happening in the background that we think are going to hit. We might not be able to ship it all in 2025, so the backlog may flow into 26, but there's a lot of quoting activity. There's some military contracts that we have no reason to believe that we won't get. We've made some strategic acquisitions in the past from competition on distribution side mainly. We're always got our ear to the ground looking for other opportunities to buy companies in our space. And we're taking a different approach going forward to our outside sales. We recently just hired a director of global sales. He's going to start with us next Monday. He's based out of Greeley, Colorado, and he'll remain in Colorado. And his primary function is going to be maintaining existing business and growing business that we don't think that we have and possibly getting into some new markets. We have reason to believe with some market studies that there's opportunities in Europe for custom machining that we're not getting. There's a trade show related to that we're planning on attending in June in Germany every year. So his goal as the new director of global sales is to get out there, pound the pavement, visit customers, make phone calls, get on the road and find out what it is that we might be missing. While things are down, we're working on a lot of things. There's a lot of things going on in the background that are hopefully positioning us for a lot of future success.
Well, that sounds great. Very interesting, and good luck with all that. Jim Ferraro, Vice President, Elna Magnetics, thank you very much for being on the Council of Industry podcast.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed myself.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Manufacturing Matters, brought to you by the Council of Industry and sponsored by PKF O'Connor Davies, accountants and advisors who understand the unique challenges and opportunities in the manufacturing sector. We hope you gained valuable insights and inspiration from today's discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.